So what's your reaction to the decision that came out yesterday?
Predictable and predicted for many, many, many months because the alternative to what the Supreme Court held in this Trump presidential immunity case would be the destruction of our Constitution, the destruction of the presidency, and therefore the destruction of our country. Think about this. If a president of the United States is not immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, not personal misconduct, his official acts, you're going to see the Trump 47 Justice Department prosecuting President Obama for capital murder for his extrajudicial drone strike on two American citizens, including a minor. You're going to see the Trump 47 Justice Department prosecuting President Biden for his illegal mass parole of over 10 million illegal immigrants into our country and the resulting rapes and kidnappings and murders and other violent crime. You're going to see the Trump 47 Justice Department prosecute George W. Bush for lying about weapons of mass destruction and the resulting hundreds of thousands of deaths in Iraq. This was a monumental decision by the Supreme Court of the United States, authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, not exactly a MAGA warrior, because the Chief Justice rightly understood this is so much bigger than Donald Trump or any other president or candidate. This is about the presidency and therefore our country.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this is you, by the way. I just want to give you the credit that you're due. Back in, let me see, what was the date of this? Hold on. It's January, episode 695, predicting what the Supreme Court would do.
Look, the Supreme Court, if the D.C. Circuit does not hold that the President of the United States at a baseline level, any president has immunity from criminal prosecution for what that president does in his official capacity, the Supreme Court's going to have to take that case. And the reason the courts have not established that presidents are immune criminally is because no president has ever been charged with a crime until the Democrats brought this unprecedented lawfare against President Trump. So the issue is going to be, does the Supreme Court establish at a baseline minimum that the President of the United States is immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts or the outer perimeter of his official acts, like the other two branches of government? They can decide that very narrowly that yes, the President of the United States is immune criminally from prosecution for his official conduct. Why would the president not be immune criminally, but he's immune civilly? It doesn't make sense.
I mean, literally every word of that was just found by the majority, 6-3. Every word of that. Immune for his official acts, including the outer perimeter. That outer perimeter would be an area in which he would have a presumption of immunity that they would then have to test if they wanted to, a prosecutor in court, try to pierce the immunity by proving it didn't apply in this particular case. And only clearly unofficial acts will be treated as not immune. This is, I have to say, you've been saying it since longer than January. From the beginning, you've been saying this exact thing. But now there's an absolute meltdown. And something you said in there was very important because the left keeps saying the Supreme Court erred here in not considering this case, the Trump case. They need to consider how extraordinary what Trump did was, as opposed to just issuing down a ruling that would apply to the presidency in general and its powers. He's such an egregious character. He crossed such egregious legal lines in their view. This court erred by not considering what he did. And what you said in that answer, I think, is the response, which is, no, what you guys have done is what's truly extraordinary here, and it's what the court was responding to.
Absolutely. This is overreach by President Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, who has an amazing track record of getting reversed by the Supreme Court of the United States and his henchmen. Jay Brad, these are the bad actors. These are the people who politicized and weaponized the Justice Department to go after Biden's political enemy because they fear they can't beat Trump on November 5th, 2024. So they've tried to bankrupt him. They've tried to throw him off the ballot. They're trying to throw him in prison for the rest of his life. They're even talking about drone striking him on these various left-wing shows. These people are insane. And guess what, guys? When you lose Chief Justice John Roberts, again, not exactly a MAGA warrior by any stretch of the imagination, you know you've lost the game.
Okay, so now let's go through some of the outlandish scenarios that the left is trying to tell us will happen as a result of this decision. I'll skip like the more egregious people, but here's one, quoting an elected DNC member from California, David Atkins. So if President Biden declared the Republican Party a terrorist organization and ordered drone strikes on Mar-a-Lago as an official act, he would have immunity, right? Those are the new rules. I mean, I realize a piece of this is facetious because I think even the left doesn't think that, President Biden would do this or President Trump in response. But what about that? Because using the military is 100% within official duties. And this court has also ruled you're not allowed to look at motive. You're not allowed to look at the motive behind the president's act. So let's be honest. Is it true that could happen? That President Biden could say the Republican Party is a terrorist organization and order drone strikes at Mar-a-Lago and not be criminally prosecuted for it?
That's not true. And remember, President Obama did order extrajudicial drone strikes of 2 American citizens, including a minor. He killed a minor. And they did this after seeking advice from David Barron, who was the head of the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel at the time, OLC, which is the general counsel for the executive branch. So they got David Barron's input on this drone strike. So David Barron's now a judge on the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston. He's a federal appellate judge. His wife is a loudmouth, pain in the ass CNN contributor. Can the Trump 47 Justice Department now charge Judge David Barron along with President Obama for this conspiracy to murder 2 Americans? Do they really want to go down this path as Democrats? Because guess what? When Trump's back in office, we can play this game if they want to play this game. President Biden, when they change his diaper this morning and feed him his pudding, he should be very thankful for the fact that the Supreme Court held that the President of the United States is immune from criminal prosecution, because after that debate, I hope he understands he's not going to be the president after January 20th, 2025. Right. And does he want crazy people like Mike Davis prosecuting him?
That's the thing. This applies to both sides. But I am I'm a little intrigued, I have to say, with the notion that maybe this guy is right, Mike, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, to me, it seems like that you could come up with such an outlandish designation in the course of your official duties, and then, the U.S. military would not do this. I mean, they're not allowed to follow illegal orders, but just the act of saying they're terrorists and I declare it so, and then ordering the military to do it, I think he would be criminally immune. I think now in the wake of this decision, tell me if I'm wrong, the remedy is impeachment. He will be thrown out of office and he will be stopped from making such outlandish decisions again, but he will not be criminally prosecuted, because it seems to me the Supreme Court said, we're just not going to be a banana republic. We are not going to allow criminal prosecutions of a president for virtually anything done in his official capacity. That's the nature of the executive branch.
I disagree. So think about this. The Supreme Court said that when you're dealing with your core constitutional powers as the president of the United States, you're absolutely immune, meaning you can't be prosecuted, you can't be questioned about it. But when you're dealing with the president's other official acts, his powers that flow from statute versus the Constitution, he would be presumptively immune, but that presumption would be overcome. You'd have a mini trial, an evidentiary hearing on the issue of immunity, and the judge would say, okay, are you acting within your core constitutional powers? I don't see in the Constitution where the president is authorized to drone strike Americans, right? And so drone strike Americans on American soil. So you're not repelling. This is not the commander-in-chief clause. This is not the president's war powers under the Constitution. The president's not, repelling a sudden attack, which is the case law on the war powers. And so you're looking at the president's statutory powers, and under the president's statutory powers, the president could raise immunity as an initial matter, and then there would be a mini trial, an evidentiary hearing to figure out whether the government can rebut that presumption of immunity. And the standard they use is the Fitzgerald standard, the Nixon case from 40 years ago, where the Supreme Court held that the president is immune from civil prosecution for his official acts. And so the government could rebut that presumption of immunity by showing that the prosecution does not endanger the intrusion on the authority of the functions of the executive branch, meaning the executive branch doesn't have the power to kill Americans on American soil because they disagree with them politically.
This July 4th, as we celebrate the birth of our nation, it's important to reflect on the freedoms our forefathers fought for. But today, these freedoms are under attack. Look no further than the treatment of President Trump and the lawfare we're seeing this year. That's why now more than ever, we need organizations that are fighting back. AMAC is the Association of Mature American Citizens, and this is more than just a senior discount organization. AMAC is dedicated to protecting conservative values and defending our rights. Just listen to the way they talk about themselves in this ad copy. They're not afraid. They're ready to fight and to stand up for conservative values, unlike some other senior organizations, okay? You can learn more about how AMAC is actively fighting for your freedom by visiting amac.us/Megyn. By joining AMAC, you're not just becoming a member, you're becoming part of a movement. This July 4th, stand united. Join AMAC today and ensure that your voice is heard. amac.us/MEGYN. Together, Americans can make a difference. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.